How many hours a day did our ancestors work? By the time you finish reading this sentence, you're going to do something. You'll put your phone down, take a deep breath, and think, why am I so tired? Because the human brain did not evolve for this life. Don't get me wrong, I'm not dismissing success. I'm not against hard work. But I have to tell you something. Did you know the average modern person spends a third of their entire life at work? More than 90,000 hours. And we built this system just 10,000 years ago, which means in 1% of human history. So what happened in the other 99? Bones don't lie. In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee studied the Jew/Huanzi people of Botswana, one of the few groups still living as hunter-gatherers. His question was simple. How many hours a week did these people actually work? The answer, 17 hours per week. 17 hours. You probably work 40 to 50 hours a week. Our ancestors spent less than half that, and it was just to survive. And this wasn't an exception. The Hadza in Tanzania, the Ashe in Paraguay, the Martu in Australia. Different continents, different climates, completely different cultures. Same result, 15 to 20 hours a week finding food. The rest, free. But those are modern people, you might say. Real Stone Age humans lived under much harsher conditions. That's exactly where the bones come in. When archaeologists examined hundreds of ancient human skeletons, the picture was clear. Hunter-gatherers were taller. Their bones were stronger. Their teeth were healthy. Their spines showed almost no signs of repetitive labor damage. Then, farming began. Skeletons suddenly shrank. Tooth decay exploded. Spinal arthritis became widespread. Even brain size decreased. Agriculture fed humanity. But the price was steep. Why was there art when there was no time to survive? In 1994, a cave was discovered in southern France, Chauvet Cave. Inside were paintings made 30,000 years ago. Horses, lions, rhinoceroses. But these weren't crude sketches. There was shading, there was perspective, there was a sense of movement. Someone had painted these animals deep inside a dark cave, by torchlight, for days, maybe weeks, not for food, not to survive, for beauty. In Blombos Cave in South Africa, perforated shell beads were found dating back 100,000 years. Each one had a tiny hole drilled through it, using a stone tool, over hours of careful work. The nearest coastline was 20 kilometers away. Someone walked there and back, just to look good. Consider a 40,000-year-old flute found in Germany, carved from a vulture bone. 5 finger holes, perfectly spaced. Whoever made this understood music, understood pitch. And they didn't make it to hunt or to defend themselves. They made it just to make music. These finds aren't isolated. Dozens of archaeological sites from Europe to Africa to Asia show the same thing. People spent serious time creating things that weren't essential. Ornate tools, beads, patterns. Survival allowed for this, because people worked so little. What did a day actually look like? You wake at dawn. There's leftover meat from yesterday, maybe a few nuts. The fire is still burning. Someone adds wood. Breakfast is social. People talk, loosely plan the day. But there's no schedule, no clock, no boss. Mid-morning, a small group might head out to hunt. But they don't have to go every day. If there was a successful hunt 2 days ago, nobody might go today. You could sharpen a spear, weave a basket, work a hide until it's soft and usable. You don't do this as a job, you do it as craft, because being skilled earns respect. If a hunt does happen, it's slow and deliberate. Humans are persistence hunters. Our ability to sweat lets us track animals for hours at a steady pace, until the animal overheats and collapses. It's one of the most efficient hunting methods in the world, and it costs patience, not calories. By early afternoon, the productive part of the day is essentially over. And here is the part modern people find hardest to understand. They do nothing. They sit in the shade. They play with children. They groom each other, not just for hygiene, but for connection. According to anthropologist James Woodburn's documentation, Juhuanzi adults spent an average of 6 hours a day in what he called social time, separate from sleeping, eating, hunting, just existing together. Because there was no money, no police, no written contracts. Whether you survived depended on whether people liked you. Relationships were the currency. What did they talk about around the fire? When the sun went down, something shifted. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner analyzed hundreds of hours of Yuhuanzi conversations. During the day, talk was practical. Who spotted animal tracks? Which plants were ready to harvest? Someone hadn't shared fairly. But at night, around the fire, 81% of conversations drifted into stories. How the world began. Ancestors who did impossible things. Adventures from distant lands. Jokes that made everyone roar. And spirits. Beings that couldn't be seen but could be felt. Wisner's conclusion. This is where human culture was actually born. Gods the past, the future. Meaning, these were luxuries you could only think about when your belly was full and you felt safe. And our ancestors lived that luxury every single night. One more thing, they didn't sleep the way we do. Medieval records from before artificial light and sleep studies from the 1990s confirm it. First sleep, 4 hours. Then 1 to 2 hours of wakefulness in complete darkness. Reflection, quiet conversation, stillness. Then second sleep, 4 more hours. Waking up at 2 a.m. wasn't a disorder, it was the design. The trap. About 10,000 years ago, something changed in the Fertile Crescent. Someone planted a seed, and it was the greatest trap humanity ever walked into. Agriculture fed more people. More people needed more food. More food required more farming. Within a few generations, the population exploded, and there was no going back. Because now there were too many mouths for hunter-gathering to feed, and farming demanded far more labor. Plowing, planting, weeding, harvesting, storing, defending. The skeletal evidence is unambiguous. Early farmers worked harder, ate worse, and died younger. But the population kept growing. With larger populations came specialists, tool makers, potters, soldiers, priests, administrators. And eventually, jobs, wages, bosses. The idea that your time belonged to someone else. Today, you work 90,000 hours. More than twice what your ancestors spent. You sleep in a single block and call waking at 2 a.m. insomnia. For them, that was the hour of their deepest thought. You want to make art in whatever time is left over after work. They made art because they had time. And that's just what humans do. We're not a different species. But compared to 99% of human history, we might as well be. We traded freedom for food security. We traded leisure for population growth. We traded time for productivity, and nobody asked us.